Hey, Katie here, and back with another of your questions answered. So all through term one, I am taking parent questions and answering them here on our weekly blog videos. So this week, I'm answering this question. It's all around tutors and whether your team needs a tutor, how should you hire a tutor? Because I have had a few questions around this, but I like this one because it's so specific. So I will read it out for you. It says, we were thinking of getting an English tutor for my son this year. He's going into year 11 and English is the subject he always struggles with the most. But now I've watched some of your videos. I'm not sure if he needs a tutor or just better skills for his essays and writing. In your opinion, would a tutor be helpful? And do you have any advice on how to select a good tutor? Okay, so I do have 2 points that I want to make in response to this. So first of all, I can't be sure whether a tutor will be helpful for him or not, because here's what it depends on. And this is the case for anyone, no matter what subjects you're considering or where your teen is at in their study. You need to think about, are they struggling with the subject content, or are they struggling with applying that content in the way that essays or exam questions or assessments require? So if a student is struggling to understand text, to be able to understand the different concepts or the different language features and what they are and how they work, then yes, an English tutor could be and would be beneficial to them. Same if it was something like math. If they're struggling to understand the actual processes and the concepts and how to do the calculations, then yes, a tutor can be helpful. Now, when we're talking about how to look for a tutor or find a good tutor, now the thing to bear in mind is it's not regulated. So there's no one that comes along and says, yes, you're allowed to tutor, or no, you're not. Now that can be a positive or a negative depending on how you look at it. But here are my top 3 things that I would look for in a tutor for your team. Number one, they need to be able to have a good rapport with your team. So it needs to be someone that they're going to be happy working with and want to do those tutoring sessions with for them to get the most out of it. The second thing is they need to be a teacher. Okay, they need to be a qualified teacher because they need to have the skills in being able to convey their knowledge across to your teen in a way that helps them learn it, understand it, and then be able to use it for themselves independently as well. Now, just because someone is great at a subject themselves does not necessarily mean that they are great at teaching it or relaying that information to teenagers. In fact, like, funny moment now, like I'm kind of linking this all together. It's just the same as if your teen has lots of subject knowledge and understands the content, they aren't necessarily skilled in being able to apply it to the way a question is asked or an exam question or an essay title. So that kind of is going to bring me on to my next point. But before I do, the third thing I would look for in a tutor is for someone who has external assessment experience. So has been an external exam marker for an exam board, is working on as a scrutiny panel member, or has experience with specific moderation activities. So that means that they not only know how to teach those concepts to your team, but they also know what's going to be required and expected of them and how they can work in a way that means they can put that across in those assessments, assignments, exams, and essays. So those would be the 3 things that I would be looking for. Next is that second sort of side of the coin, which is if it's more the fact that your teen actually understands, they understand what is going on in the novels, they understand the language features that are there, or the language features or techniques that an author is using. They just aren't great at, let's just say, writing essays. Then they need the skills and the strategies to be able to do that. Learning more and more about the novel or the characters or whatever text or the poetry or whatever text it is that they are studying is not going to help them if they cannot put that across in the way that the exam question or the essay question is asking. They need to understand, like, what is in the marking criteria and how do they meet that? How do they unpick the question and how do they relate their knowledge that they have already built in a way that responds appropriately and accurately and on target to that question and is going to meet those marking criteria. In that case, they need the skills and the training like I deliver in the 10-week program and through my coaching. And I'm absolutely happy to put that out there and say that. So that's the key question for you to decide. Wherever your teen is at, whatever subjects that they are studying, and where, you know, whatever grade levels they're at, whatever their goals are, what you want for them, that's the key question that you really need to be digging deep on and working with your teen on is, do they understand the content? Do they understand the concepts? Do they have a pretty good knowledge of the subject and the curriculum? If so, then they need the skills to be able to apply it if they're not getting the grades or the results that they either want or that reflect their effort. If they say no, like I'm just not getting X, Y, or Z that we're going through in class, they're not really keeping up with their classwork, or they're not able to take on board the information that's being taught, then yes, a tutor, a subject tutor, can be more beneficial for them for sure. Okay, so I hope that helps answer that question. And for anyone who has ever been considering like, oh, should we get a tutor and will that help? And or has used a tutor, and I mean, gosh, this is an interesting point. I'll add this on at the end just quickly. If you've ever used a tutor and you haven't really seen the outcomes or results that you have hoped for or wanted from that, then maybe it's that application part that is missing, that needs to be filled, that missing piece of the puzzle. Maybe it was never about the subject content in the first place. So I'm Katie Jones. Thank you so much for tuning in for this week's video. If you have a question that you would like me to address on a future weekly video, then just email me. It's support@rocksolidstudy.com. And until next week, have a fantastic week. I appreciate you for being here, and I'll see you again very soon.